Jeremy, I am not your father. I am not your father. I don't have a Darth Vader doll. I only have Chewbacca and Han Solo. That's all I have.
Look, this could you imagine 100 years old?
Jeremy record good drum parts now.
Come record you, I will.
Hey, everybody. I'm Bart Ruffley. Welcome to, I don't know what this is.
What
I
kind
think
of
we're going to,
nerds are we? We all have Star Wars figurines.
we're completely total dorks. Okay. The fact that all three of us were able to just reach down and grab a Star Wars figurine is amazing. That was not planned. I'm Bart Robley, and I'm here with two other complete dorks, Chip Ritter and Jeremy Steinkohler. It just so happens that we all three play the drums and are obviously Star Wars fans, everybody. Welcome to the show. And we got a great show for you today. We're going to be talking about studio work and stuff like that, but really more importantly, we're going to be talking about using the Force. We're going to be talking about, I know I need all the help I can get, so I use the Force every time I pick up a pair of sticks. We're going to talk about Jeremy's recent recording session that he got to do at Skywalker Ranch Recording Studios, or Skywalker Recording, the exact name he will tell us. This is huge in the words of Dom Fimularo. The fact that you got to record there is amazing. Jeremy, talk to us about Skywalker. Tell us what it is. Tell it where it came from, where it's at, and what you got to do. This is amazing.
So thanks, Bart. It was a really, really cool experience. Definitely like a lifetime kind of memorable experience. So you all familiar with George Lucas, the director and creator of Star Wars, and he is from California and bought this massive plot of land in Marin off of Lucas Valley Road, which I'm guessing is probably named after him.
Right.
And it's this giant compound that's like many, many acres, and there's like horse stables and a pond and like a baseball field. And I mean, it's not like a arena, but like, it's huge and it's idyllic. It's like a farm is what it feels like. But it's like all perfectly manicured. There's a whole team of people that work there full time, keeping this place up. And it's like, if you went to like, some sort of like paradise, ranch with, fruit trees and a lake, and it's just beautiful. And there's no signage, so you can't like find it if you're passing by. They keep it private, and you've got to be on a, there's a thorough security check when you go in, make sure you're supposed to be there. And they have all these grounds, but they have this what's called the tech building, which is the main building where they do all the production for movies and recording and sound editing and all that stuff. And I actually happen to have a friend who works there as a sound designer who plays playing a band with him. And he mixed our last album there, which was really cool. We got to do some recording, like a late night. I recorded some tambourine there the first time I went, and I was like, "Wow, this is the best sounding tambourine I've ever recorded, man." It was. I'm not even kidding. It was like, wow, that you can hear every little nuance, and the room was so cool. So in this giant compound, there's a recording studio that is massive. It's like 3 stories tall on the inside.
Wow.
Yeah, at least 2 stories at least, and it's maybe 60 yards long and 30 yards wide. I mean, it's a massive studio. And, they do a lot of sound scoring for films there, right? So they'll have orchestras come in. And that's actually the very room where they recorded the soundtrack for Star Wars. So
for the original, for the first one? He had it back then?
For all of them.
Wow.
I don't know about the most recent ones, but for all of the first 3. Yeah. So they had John Williams and his orchestra in there with the movie up on the screen. There's a giant movie screen in there too, with the orchestra performing and people syncing it up and, doing the bits for the different scenes and whatnot. So, I told the band, if you're really, I said, Rick, shh, be quiet. And all this. You can hear Darth Vader if you're really quiet. He's the guy that's very Vaderish there. The room is also, I'll show you pictures when we get into it, but the room is like, it's got these vertical panels that line the walls that are, 2 stories high, that are maybe, 10 or 15 feet wide. And then there's all these panels in the ceiling that just look like acoustically treated, wall panels and ceiling panels. But it turns out that with like the press of a button, they can have the walls rotate and move, and have the ceiling panels move to adjust the acoustics of the room to be
Wow.
different based on the project that's in there and what kind of acoustics they want. So this is, just to be clear, this is like a super top state-of-the-art facility that has spared no expense with, how they've put this studio together. It's like
Right.
everything there is the most expensive, top-notch. You go in there and it's a feeling. We've all been to all kinds of different recording studios, ranging
Yeah.
from like the 4-track in your buddy's basement to, a pro studio where they've got all nice mics and stuff. And this place was like 10 levels above that. In the control room, I wish I'd taken a picture of this, but they had these speakers. They had 5 speakers surrounding the control, the mixing board. And I was told that each one of the speakers cost 6 figures. And it didn't even look like a speaker or anything I'd seen. It had this like orb on the top, and I was like, "What the hell is this kind of?" It was
Wow.
crazy, yeah. And they had 2 engineers working the session. One of whom was a woman named Leslie Ann Jones, who's a 7-time Grammy winner. She was the engineer on the session. She was a good friend of Gene's, whose project this was. They had recorded back together in New York years ago. 7 Grammys, and just the most down to earth. I mean, professional, very businesslike. Like, let's get to it, but super nice, super pro. It was a cool experience.
That's
Awesome,
amazing.
man.
That's so cool. You got to do that. So,
Did you guys get the tour? Did you get to eat while you were there?
Mm-hmm. I had gotten the tour there with my buddy when I went to record there the first time, just to record that tambourine track and do some. There was a piano. We were doing some piano overdubs, and he showed me they had these rooms, like viewing rooms, right, like sort of miniature movie theaters. So they'd have 6 rows of tiered seating and there were all these giant leather easy chairs, and they had a movie screen down in the front, and they had telephones next to each chair. So you can imagine like all these directors and producers that are sitting there watching these, pre-release versions of films, making changes and calling people to say, "Oh, cut this out, change this scene," or whatever. We did get to eat, but it was just like in the kind of green room area where the bands usually hang out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they do have a nice restaurant there, like a sort of whatever. I got my food from there. Just they delivered. It was nice. We actually placed the order in the morning. They delivered it over when we took our break, and the food was there waiting for us.
wow.
Yeah. It was really cool. It was a really fun experience, and you felt like you were being treated really well. Like the musicians are the guests of honor when you go there. I get there, I pull up the truck to load in, and 3 people came out as soon as I got there with a cart. And, "Hey, can I help you? Can you give me a hand with your drums?" And rolled them in for me, and it was great.
That's
awesome.
That's what I was going to ask. So you brought your kit. They didn't have like a house kit that you played.
Oh, they do have plenty of house kits, but I brought my kit. I did try out a snare drum that they had, that the engineer suggested I give a go, and we decided it was too dry for what we wanted. It was actually a piccolo snare that Will Kennedy had given her.
Oh wow!
Yeah. He's like, "Hey, here's a snare I'm not using. Why don't you use it for the studio?" But wow. I ended up recording on my Brooks kit. Here's something interesting, you guys. So this was kind of an eclectic session. The name of the woman whose project this is, her name is Jean Feinberg, and she's a sax and flute player, but she's also a drummer, and she actually takes some drum lessons with me. And she has a band, this octet called Jean Feinberg and Jazzphoria, and it's rhythm section, bass, drums, guitar, keys, and 4 horns. So there's trumpets who both double on flugelhorn. There's Jean who plays tenor and also flute, and then there's a woman named Carolyn Walters who plays Barry sax and bass clarinet. And so
wow.
It's arrangements for 4 horns and rhythm section, and it's pretty eclectic. It's like everything in the kitchen sink. We do some jazz. There's like a bebop tune. We do a couple of reggae tunes. There's several funk tunes. There's a bossa nova. There's a rock thing. There's a hip hop thing. So it's really like just super eclectic.
Right.
And I was concerned, going into the studio with only one drum kit, right? Because like my rock kit is right for a couple of the tunes, but definitely not a couple of the other tunes.
Right.
And I was going to have this big meaty bass drum sound that I didn't want. and these deep toms with the 2-ply clear heads, what I use for heavier, more typical rock sounding gigs.
All right.
And then I got my jazz kit, which has got my 18-inch bass drum and a 12 and a 14-inch tom with the coated heads. And I can tune the toms down a little bit to make those work for different situations. But the 18-inch bass drum not going to give me the punch that I needed for the hip hop and the reggae thing.
Right.
So what I did was I brought my Brooks kit with the 18-inch bass drum, and I brought a 20-inch Yamaha Maple Custom bass drum that I have. That happened.
Okay.
When I had my guy make me the Brooks kit, Mike D'Amico, I had him put a Yamaha tom mount on the bass drum. So because I already had a Yamaha kit that I could therefore swap things in and out. And here it turned out to be the first time I ever did it. And it was perfect because what I did was I just played the jazz tunes on the 18 and I swapped out the 20, which was tuned low with a big Aquarian super kick
Right.
for the reggae and the funk tune. And it was perfect. It was perfect. She was like, oh, that sounds like you just switched drum kits just by changing out the bass drum.
Nice.
And I played a Black Beauty on the snare, and that sounded freaking amazing. Yeah. So here's one thing. You go to the studio with your drum kit, and you generally like the sound of your drums, like when you play them, because you spent all these years playing. You pick the drums you like. You picked your cymbals. You tuned them. You put the heads you want on them. You're happy with your sound, right? That's your drum kit. That's your sound when you go on a gig. And sometimes you go into the studio, and then the engineer sets up the mics, and you know how you get your sounds at the beginning of the session, right? And then you go in and says, how does this sound to you, right? And sometimes it's like, oh yeah, just like my drum sound. And other times you're like, I don't know, but that's not exactly that's not how I thought my kit sounded, right?
Yep.
And man, this time it was like, I've never heard my drum sound so good that quickly at a recording session. It was just like, I don't even know what magic they pulled there, but it was just incredible.
Oh, I'm sure with the mics and the preamps that they have are just, I mean, come on.
Exactly right. Yeah. It was cool.
I mean,
they know what they're doing.
So I have a question for you in regards to, let's start with this. Were you reading the session?
Oh, good question. I was reading. Yes.
Okay. And you was it like a total transcription note for note, or were you?
Oh, no.
Okay. Just like a.
Do I have it here? No, it's basically, I mean, because Jean's also a drummer, she did write out, sort of drum dedicated parts that weren't just lead sheets, but in the drum parts, there are not a lot of, it's more like big band chart reading. So there's like hits and punches and stops and breaks and figures, but there's no like play this groove or play this variation of the groove or play this specific fill. It's really more generic roadmap, and I'm supposed to fill in all the details based on how I feel the song should go at this part and what the fill should be, what the groove is.
So it was you're reading a chart, not a transcription, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So this brings me to the next question that I was wondering about, because you touched on how they treated you so good and you were the guest of honor, so you're made to feel at home.
Right.
We've all been in sessions, I'm sure, where maybe a producer or an engineer is not the as kind as that. When you're working with a 7-time Grammy winner, was there pressure? I mean, of course, we always have our pressure to perform well. We always want to play at our best level always. But did you feel any oh gosh, nerves going into it? I know this is second time recording there, but did you have a little bit of nerves, and did you have to deal with that?
That's a great question, Bart. I wasn't nervous because I know the material well, so I wasn't like, oh, I'm prepared. I was prepared. We've already gigged with that book, several, I don't know, 10 gigs or something. So I'm comfortable with the stuff. But, when you go into the studio, all of a sudden it's not just like a live gig. All your stuff is under a microscope, and, what you were maybe kind of glossing over, or maybe there was a fill that wasn't quite tight in the pocket, or whatever, some groove variation that got a little loose. Like you can't have any of that, right? So I wasn't nervous exactly, but I very much wanted to do well. I very much wanted to be clean and tight and be Mr. First Take, which I wasn't on every take. But with a group that size, the more people you have recording live, the more likely things can go wrong, right?
Yep.
And so we knew, okay, horn part goes wrong, you can punch it in. drum part goes wrong, not so much. I mean, really, you
Mhm.
kind of got to, if there's something I knew, like if there's something I played that I wasn't gonna be able to live with, I had to stop the take and redo it. But it only happened, really the only sort of challenge or hiccup that came up that, you know, we ended up sailing through with no problem was, and this is maybe an interesting teaching moment or worthwhile story to share with drummers out there. Um, we tracked 4 songs, and 3 of them we did with a click. And um, the one of them that we did with a click was a sort of heavy drum, busy, funky, hip hoppy kind of groove.
Mhm.
And you know, there's a bunch of breaks in the tune where the band is out and I'm out for like a whole bar. And they decided they didn't want the click in their headphones, so I was the only one with the click in my cans.
Mhm.
And you know, we were having trouble at the stops, you know, because nobody could hear the time in between, and there was no drum fill to keep the time. And I was having trouble staying on the click because I didn't realize this until a couple of takes in, and I was like, God, why am I having so much trouble on this song staying with the metronome? And I realized that the timbre of the metronome that they had on that song, it was like kind of a wooden clave type of sound,
Mhm.
was
Mhm.
being obscured by the for whatever reason by the piano. Like it was like covering up that sonic range where the click was. It was like the
Yep.
high end of the piano was covering it. And I was like, I kept losing it, you know, in the piano part and not hearing it.
Yeah.
So after 2 takes where like we played it, you know, solidly as a band, but it wasn't with the click, super solid. And I knew that, but I couldn't figure out why I wasn't able to stay with it. I was like, huh, could we change the tone of the metronome and make it more of a metallic, kind of a cowbell kind of sound? And then when we did that, bam, first take. It was like,
Yeah.
oh, what a revelation, you know, that I thought it was at first you know, that was that moment where I started to think, oh no, how embarrassing, you know, I didn't pull it off and I'm not with the click, um, even though I was for the 2 tunes previous. And all it was I couldn't hear it that well. You know, my first instinct was it's me, I'm the problem.
Yeah.
But then I had to kind of come around to be like, oh, wait a minute. I didn't have a problem on the last 2 tunes. This is a comfortable groove for me. I'm not, you know, it's not difficult. Why am I having trouble staying with the click? And it's because I couldn't hear it that well. And it
Yeah.
took me a minute to kind of realize why I couldn't hear it that well. So that was a cool fix, I guess.
I
Right
like
on.
that you I like that you said, you know, instead of saying, "Hey, turn the click up," you said, "Let's change the tone of the click."
Right. Right.
Um and this is a bit off subject, but not really because we're talking about the tone of the click. I've noticed that sometimes when learning songs or rehearsing songs with the recording, you might have a hard time, if it's an acoustic tune, you might have a hard time understanding what is being played on the hi-hat because the hi-hat and the
Mm-hmm.
acoustic guitar frequencies are so close
Right.
that you're like, is that a guitar hitting that or is that what the drummer played on the hi-hat? What is that?
Right.
And so that makes so much sense that when you're in the recording session and man, I'm really fighting the click, you know. And I know I play the click all the time and we were just played the 2 previous songs with the click and I was on it. Why am I having so much trouble? Well, maybe it is a volume thing, or maybe
Mm-hmm.
it's just, hey, the click's getting blended in with something else. And then when I finally hear it again, oh, I've jumped a little bit or I've laid back a little bit, you know,
Right.
whatever. That was really good. That was cool that you thought of that, Jeremy. That's great.
Thanks. Yeah. Um, Yeah. At first, I turned it up. I still maybe louder, and I still was having trouble because I'd hear it, then it would disappear for several beats at a
Yeah.
time, and I'm like, all it takes is a little bit of leaning backward or forward, and all of a sudden,
Yeah.
things get off. But it worked out great, and we ended up with a great take, and all 4 of the takes ended up really great. So I'm really pleased. And they this is just the first half of the album. We're going to go back and do the second half maybe in several months. So I'll get another chance to go
Cool.
there, which is cool. And they said, oh, main thing we wanted to get today was solid rhythm tracks, right? Because they can always punch in and overdub some horn stuff. And that's
Did
what
they,
we did.
did they tell you to
So
bring your drum tech with you on the next one? Because I'll fly up.
Dude, I can bring a drum tech if you want to come up.
Dude, I would. The hell yeah, I could carry a bag of cymbals and set them
Yeah.
up, and oh yeah, I'm in.
You could be there with the cans on, standing behind me, smacking me on the back of the head when I'm dragging.
I'm his metronome.
Yeah, exactly.
Chip,
So
you had a
our
question.
friend-
I'm sorry.
Our friend Jim Royal's watching, and he said, "Super duper amazing, Jeremy."
Thanks,
And
pal.
then our friend Rick Stojak said, "How much improvising did you do, Jeremy?"
Oh, that's a great question, Rick. And by the way, Rick, we're missing you today. Sorry you're not
We
feeling
are,
good.
Rick.
I hope you're feeling better soon and fully recovered from whatever is going on. How much improvising did I do? You know, so when you have a groove-based tune, I mean, if there's times, as you know, when you're playing, like, say, a rock kind of thing, and your part's like a crafted puzzle piece, and it's very specific, and it's very fitting in very particular way with the bass guitar part or what have you. And then you have your fill, and then it goes to the chorus, and you know what you're doing every time. Maybe the fill's a little different, but you have a really pretty narrow set plan for how you're going to approach a song. That was not the case with this session. It was much more loose in terms of what I could do, and take to take. There was definitely some variety because, laying down a funk thing, it's more of like a thematic part. So here's the basic idea. This is what it sounds like every time, but measure to measure, or not measure to measure, but maybe take to take, or 4 bars. What I do on this little bass drum variation on bar 4 versus what I did on bar 8 the second time, that might be different each time. So, it's some degree of improvisation, but it wasn't. And then we also played a kind of straight ahead jazz tune, and for that there was much more improvisation. That was completely different every time we took it. But for the groove ones, it was like, oh, here's the basic groove, here's the feel. I don't think if anybody was listening, any of the other musicians would have been able to tell a difference because it just feels the same. But I knew that there were things different every time I did it.
Right.
But what I was doing as far as differences and variations and improvisation was well within the window of what worked and what sounded good and what I felt. It's like every time I play the tune, it might be slightly different, but it's all in the same spirit and the same thematic approach.
Yeah.
Hey, Jeremy, what was your favorite song to record and why?
Oh, I think the funk one. That's for me like probably my. If I had to pick one style of music that's my favorite to play, it's stuff that's got like a funky groove where I can just play it really juicy, with a lot of ghost notes, a lot of subtle hi-hat work. When I go to the ride, I get to do the alternating on the bell thing, and the fills are juicy, and I just feel like I can dig in, and I love playing that music.
Yeah.
As much as I like everything else, like the funk stuff is for me my favorite to play. And it's that to me is all about locking it in with the rhythm section. Like if you and the bass are feeling it, man, I can just play that.
Chord.
What's that?
If you and the bass player are one with the force.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it.
That's awesome, man. We'll come back and let us know.
If I could have made that sound, I would have.
Jeremy, you're going to come back and let us know where we can get this CD when it comes out, right?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah. It probably is not going to be for several months, but I'll definitely let you guys know.
Right on.
Yeah, it's some fun stuff. I'll tell you what, just before we move on.
Yeah, I was just going to, do you have pictures? I'd love to see some pictures of the place.
Let me see what I can pull up for you guys.
That's awesome. I want to see these walls that move, man. I can't. Is the room concrete? Because you're talking about like it's 3 stories. I'm envisioning this, and with the big screen. Oh my God! Look at that.
So the outside is all brick facade. At least you don't see brick in San Francisco because of the earthquakes.
Yeah, right.
But it looked like, and then I don't know. The floor seemed like it was concrete. Yeah.
Typical drummer. He's got 4,000 POV pics.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Ain't it the truth? Hey, drummers, look at me.
That's his baby.
Hey, I'm right there with you.
Can you guys see that?
What? Yeah. What is that?
That's just a speaker that they had under a cover, and I took a picture because it had Skywalker on it. It was cool.
That's so
Um,
cool.
Oh wait, shoot.
How much Star Wars memorabilia is around the place?
You know, not a ton, but they do have.
Really?
So there's some, but it's not like full of action figures and stuff like that, because you have to understand this studio has been used for so many movies besides
Yeah.
Star Wars. That's just like
Oh, yeah.
three movies out of like hundreds that they've done there, right?
Right.
So there's movie posters lining every wall, and clearly those are movies that were produced there or made there. And I mean, I can't even remember. The list was long and long, and you walk down the hallways and there's corridors and corridors full of these movie posters.
Wow.
Yeah, you really feel like you're where this is like the Northern California version of where all the stuff happens in LA.
Yeah.
It's like
I was on their website earlier, and you can just scroll down the whole projects list, and it shows all the movies that were on.
Yeah, that's cool. I haven't done that. So here is where the room that I was in. You can see it's pretty big ISO room.
Yeah.
And it had those wooden kind of Minecraft looking, boards on both sides. This is before it was fully set up. But let's see.
How many? Okay, wait. Go back to that for a second, real quick. This is I'm gonna totally.
Maybe this one's better.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna geek out on this for a second. So.
Oh no, hold on. Let me get you a better one. Let me get it one fully mic'd up.
Yeah, that's what I'm interested in. That's my question. So you brought a 4-piece kit.
Yeah.
You got I see them, and the front head is a sealed head, but that's what I have on my rock kit now. I put one of Aquarian's BR heads on there, the Buddy Rich head. And somebody said something about that. Yeah, well, Bissonette one time, he goes, "You ought to put a BR head on there," and I was like, "Oh, sacrilege!" But then I went ahead.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. So anyway, here's my question. I'm sorry. You have a sealed head, and you have a kick drum mic in the front. You have. Did they mic the two toms individually, or are you just using those overheads?
Oh no, they mic the toms individually. They
did, because I don't see them on there. That's why I was asking.
Yeah.
How many mics total on the kit?
There were 2 mics on the bass drum, and that's
one in front and one in back.
No, they had two on the Rezo head.
Oh, really? Okay.
There were the 2 overheads. They had mics on the toms. They had 2 mics on the snare, mic on
top
the
and bottom.
Yeah, and hi-hat. Yeah, so it was fairly straightforward. There weren't a lot.
Okay.
There weren't a lot.
David Betts says, just checking out some Star Wars quotes, bearing in mind the idea of working as a drummer with a click. And in other studios, it says, sometimes we must let go of our pride and do what is requested of us. Anakin Skywalker. Star Wars Episode 2. And Rick Stojak has come in with another question, you guys. He said, Jeremy, what cymbals did you use?
Oh, yeah. Good question, man. So this was, for me, maiden voyage in the recording studio with my new Sabian setup. So I had, for some of the tunes, are you seeing these pictures as I'm pulling them up?
Yeah, I'm seeing them. It looks beautiful.
That's awesome, man.
I had my... for the jazz tunes, I use my Crescent Hammertone hi-hats, which are my favorite jazz hi-hats. I just love them. And I have an HH on the top left there. You can see it's an HH Vanguard ride. And actually was super psyched to get basically the very last Vanguard ride that they had in the vault from Sabian. It was a 22, but I wanted a 21. So they actually cut it down for me to a 21.
Really?
Yeah, which was awesome. Then I've got an Artisan medium 20-inch ride, and then that crash there was the HH Evolution 18-inch. But then when I switched the setup to the rock, the funk, the heavier stuff, I took out the Crescent hi-hats and put in a pair of Artisan medium hi-hats. These are all Sabians, by the way.
Are those modern vintage on the toms?
Yes, those are modern
and on the kick.
toms. But
Single ply?
Yeah, single ply for the tom. So this is my jazz setup.
Cool.
That's my Black Beauty, Ludwig Black Beauty snare with a texture coated. The toms are 12 and 14 modern vintage single ply. Same with the bass drum for the 18, but for the larger kick drum, I had a Super Kick 1. And then for the other cymbal, I don't think I have a picture of the other cymbal setup. It was kind of cool. It was a green bass drum with the blue tom, so it's kind of neat hybrid looking kit.
That's cool.
And I used
jelly bean.
Yeah, exactly. For the heavier stuff, I used Artisan hi-hats, and I swapped out that. I took out the H8, the Vanguard ride, and I swapped in a HHX. What do you call it? I have it right here. Complex thin crash is my second crash.
Oh,
so I had So
I see some close-ups in it. Give us a couple close-up shots.
Oh yeah, or actually, let me show you this. Let me show you. This is the larger room.
Wow.
So you see the panels on the wall that are kind of diagonal.
Yeah. And those spin like this or something?
They rotate like left to right, like you're
like louvers.
Yeah, exactly. Same with the ceiling panels. And then you can see
what are they? Are they covered with cloth or what is it? Like what is?
Yeah.
Oh.
And then that's you can to let the guitar player out.
No, man, keep him in there. You know what? You could put a guitar player in that room, and they'll sit there and go bring and turn a knob for 8 hours, and still not get the tone they want. Sorry, all the guitar players out there are going to kill me now.
So the whole session that we did was behind these wooden sound baffles. And you can sort of see underneath the movie screen, that is where the light is on. That's the booth where I'm situated.
Okay.
So we only used a fraction of the space, right? Because it's such a massive.
So this is where like the orchestra would sit and watch the movie.
Yes, exactly.
That's so cool, man.
Let's see. So from my view, this is my view from the booth looking out.
Cool.
And you can see the horn players are lined up there in their little stables on these risers. Let's see. Oh, they had a few mic stands on hand.
Just a few.
Just a couple. That's where all my mic stands went. Dude, I don't know what it is about mic stands. I've bought millions of them in my life, and I don't have any of them. I don't know. They just evaporate.
They all ended up with Skywalker.
Dude, they do. They all. That's why he has so much money. He stole all my mic stands.
So this was just one sort of side of 4 sides of cubbies of microphones that they have there.
Nice. Rick Stojak asks, "Is that a lightweight Yamaha hi-hat stand? Is it stable enough?" Love the simple and head choices.
I love all the gear questions, Rick. Yes. So if you look at this one, you can see on the on the left here, and also for my cymbal stands, I've got what's a relatively new product from Yamaha, which is Crosstown hardware, and they're made out of aluminum. And these things are feather light. I mean, these are a game changer for me. I'm not a super heavy hitter, so nonetheless, I was a little concerned when I bought them. Like, are these going to hold up? Are they going to topple over? What if I put a heavy ride cymbal on there? No problem.
Here's my question about that. Sorry.
The only thing you can't do on these stands is attach a suspended tom.
Okay.
Other than that, they're great, and they're a fraction of the weight of normal stands. So I am a convert.
Let me ask you this, because there was another company that was making that, and I apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I thought you had stopped. I'm geeking out right now.
Go for it.
On the lightweight stuff, on that crosstown stuff, my concern was always this, because every once in a while I'll play an outdoor gig, and I played a couple outdoor gigs where the wind comes up.
Yeah.
Is that going to be, is your cymbal going to fly away?
Right.
They a sail.
It's
know.
like a Mary Poppins situation where you're like,
Totally, dude. Totally. Yeah.
I have played outdoor gigs with them. I had a similar concern. You know, I haven't played in a windstorm, but so far never had a cymbal fall over on me.
Really. They don't seem like they're,
Nope.
you know,
Nope.
really. Okay.
No, I will say this, you know, they don't have a boom. So if you look at the right hand crash here,
Mhm.
you'll notice that that one's steel. Oh,
Mhm.
actually, what I did there is I kind of made a hybrid one. I took a steel, what do you call it, boom arm, you know, and then telescoping pole, and I put it into the lightweight base. So
Mm.
I kind of had a hybrid stand there. I've got you know, it's heavier because of that, but
Yeah.
they don't make the boom in the aluminum.
That's
Yeah.
cool. That's awesome. And a single pearl pet, use a pearl pedal, huh? Chain drive.
Yeah, yeah. So you know, I used to play DW pedal for a
Mhm.
long time, and some years ago, 10 years ago, I switched to this Pearl Eliminator, which at the time was the top one before they came out with the Demon or whatever came after it. And then
Yeah.
I have to say, I love that pedal. It's the action's really good, and I can adjust it just how I want it. And I know I've yet to try a trick pedal, and I know Chip is a trick guy, and you
I
Oh,
am
guys,
artists
too.
too.
Yeah, I
yeah,
am too.
I'm at some point I am interested in checking those out because I've heard such great things about them. But this has been my pedal for years that I'm happy with, and yeah. See if there's
That's
any.
That's
so
awesome.
cool.
Chip, which pedal do you use, Chip? You use
I use both the Dominators and the Bigfoots. I use the Dominators on one kit, on my house kit, and then the rock and roll to any kind of music, the Bigfoots on my main kit.
yeah, that's what I use too. Do you play beater out? Both of you guys, do you play beater out or beater in? Or it depends on the tune.
Beat her out?
Yeah, do you play into the head or do you, kind of
No,
like a
I
mower
play beat her out. I play
You-
off the head.
off that? Yeah, that's what. Jeremy, how about you?
Uh, I'd say it's a combination, but more often out than in.
Yeah, me too.
There will be times when I want a certain like sort of punch or a dry, you know, that doesn't resonate as much. I'll leave the beater and the drum for like a certain funk stuff, I guess.
Hey,
Okay,
that's a
yeah.
great picture. You should post that in the deck, man.
Yeah, that is a good picture.
Thanks. I will do
Are
that.
those
Very
sound
cool.
baffles behind you? Those are wood?
Yeah, so that's that. Yeah, let me show you another picture that's kind of cool.
So while you're in that studio right there where you are in that room, you've got headphones on and you can hear the producer and the rest of the band and you can talk to everybody. And
Yeah, and I don't know if you can quite tell from the photo, but I had the way I go in the studio is I got one ear fully over the ear and the other one
Mhm.
half over my ear.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
this allows me to get a little bit of the natural sound of the room of the drums in the room
Mhm.
instead of getting, you know, the drums because I don't have a lot. I didn't get any drums in my headphones.
Oh, you don't? You don't do that?
Sometimes I do, but on this session I didn't. Um,
you were anointed with the Skywalker technology.
exactly. So
W-
I did one headphone, one can on, one can half on, and that was sort of the perfect blend of hearing the drums, the natural sound, and the response that I was getting, and then
Mhm.
hearing what I needed to in the rest of the rest of the band and the metronome.
Do you was the room pretty dead? Like when you're in there, is it just
Yeah,
dull?
pretty
I
much,
bet.
pretty much. So
Yeah.
here's one you
David
can
Betts
see.
asked, sorry.
They had those wooden baffles you asked about. They had them on both in front of me and behind me.
Wow,
Yeah.
those are beautiful.
And you know, I don't know if you can tell, but if you look at the glass doors, the double glass doors, the second set is at an angle
Yeah.
because you know in a recording studio you don't want any parallel lines as much as you can help it.
Right.
So there's not any sound bouncing back and forth. So everything was, you know, angled walls and all that stuff. Let me show you one more.
David Betts asked, Jeremy, was there a conductor? And if so, can you see him or her, or was it all just click?
No conductor,
No conductor.
all click.
That is really a cool picture, Jeremy. That is
Yeah,
really.
these are these mobile, like they had them on wheels, and they're basically like sound absorbing baffles. They're made out of wood,
Hmm.
and you know they would move them around the room to treat the space acoustically based on whatever we were doing. I don't, you know, they just moved them. They had all the engineer. They had a you know, usually you go to the most of the recording studios I've been into, there's an engineer. That's it.
Right.
Here there was 4 people.
Really?
Two lead engineer, assistant engineer, and then 2 assistants. One of the guys, one of the assistants was out in the room with us, solely responsible for headphone mixes.
Wow.
And then he and the other assistant were also, walking around, moving microphones. They tossed a blanket over my other bass drum that I wasn't using just so it wouldn't resonate at all. Yeah.
Was this recording session on a record label? I mean, it's been a hell of a budget that they had for this thing.
I don't know if she's on a label or not, but I do know she got a grant for the session.
Oh, okay.
Project. So yeah. Here's
Rick asks, is that mic set up for you to talk back?
Oh yeah. So this was something I had actually never seen before. Where'd you see that? Where was that?
I think he saw it on the picture of you on the drums.
Yeah, that 58, right?
Yeah, you see the 58. You see the 58 right next to the music stand.
Yeah.
So it had this little button on it, not on the mic, but it was like a threaded cable that went into it that had a red button, like a turbo boost button that kind of button. And
turbo boost. That was the light speed.
Here it is. You can see. So here's the mic behind the pop filter, right? Oh no, sorry, those are my headphones sitting on top. And then there's this blue cable, and then looks like it's going into the ear of the headphone. There was this button, and anytime I wanted to talk into it, it basically the microphone was off unless I pressed the button.
Mm-hmm.
Right on.
So it was like talk back. Press the button.
Rick also asked, what's the studio's hourly rate? If you have to ask, you can't afford it. Rick.
Exactly. Dude, I was just going to say, you took the words out of my mouth, Chip.
100%. So for the record, I don't know. I just know it's a shit ton of money.
Dude, I can't even imagine what the budget must have been on that recording session. I mean,
I know that the Jean, the woman whose project it is, she's good friends with the engineer.
Okay.
So I'm guessing there was some, family type of deal going on.
Can you click on that blue, that beautiful floor tom or bass drum?
Yeah, I want to see that too.
Oh
my God, look at that drum, dude. That is gorgeous.
Isn't that sweet?
Nice.
That is beautiful, bro.
That's my
14 by 16?
14 by 14.
By 14, really? Okay, wow. Man, I love those tube lugs.
Oh yeah, me too. This is, I pinch myself every time I play this drum set. It's like, my God,
that finish is just gorgeous, man. That is a beautiful kit, bro.
Thanks. I lost it.
That's a good shot too. That's
That's
right as you went into hyperspace before the start.
Darth Vader came into the house.
Yeah, that was the hyperspace shot. That's
exactly.
You push who pushed the blue turbo boost button?
I know what that is. That was the carbonite.
That was dude, there it is. Look. Han Solo was in the carbonite. That was it. Okay. Star Wars Geek. TK. What is TK429?
The serial
Anybody
number
watching? What is TK429?
The serial number of the Millennium Falcon?
No. Let's see if
NC
David Betts or
1707.
Rick or somebody chimes in on it. See what they say. Okay, so on it. I mean, obviously, this is not a studio nightmare story. I mean, we've all had those where you go in the studio and it just everything is bad. This is like probably one of the best sessions you've ever done, top drawer, and this is not something that you're going to get every time you go into the studio. I mean, this is so on the opposite side of what most of us are going to regularly see in a recording session, correct?
Yes.
I mean, this is the best of the best in every possible way. And so that experience from that, the best of the best, let's hypothetically say you go on to another session and it's on the 4-track in a guy's basement and now it's the worst of the worst. How do you how do you go from that to, because it's going to happen, right? We don't always get this. We go, man, you're not going to believe the session. It's fantastic. And then
Right.
2 weeks later, you're on a session in somebody's garage. How do you bounce back and forth now? How do you go from having the best to, okay, now I've got to deal with, we can't get the click to work in the guy's garage. How do you do that, Jeremy? How do you go from there?
That's a good question, man. I think you got to, no matter what situation you're in, have a professional attitude and patience, and that was one of the things I was struck, honestly, about the engineer. And again, 7-time Grammy winner, she's worked with the best of the best of the best. And she was supremely patient and supremely professional with the band the whole time, even when we were messing things up and horn players couldn't get their entrance right and intonation was off. We had to redo a part over and over and over. She was nothing but positive and nothing but professional. I was like, wow, I noticed that. There was not an ounce of frustration in her voice. And that was cool. And it was a good reminder, like, oh, that's how I need to be.
Yes.
If we're going to take it again, even though I thought that was a perfect take, all right, let's do it again. Let's make this one even better,
Yep.
And so, and I think that's the takeaway for me when I'm going into sessions that are less than ideal is be patient and be professional,
Yeah.
If I need to, blow off steam, let the steam come out of my ears, I need to go take a break outside and just like shake my head a few times, take a deep breath and come back in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've been there, man. I've had those sessions. We loaded in, we set everything up. Oh, the preamps aren't working. 3 hours later, the preamps aren't working. Oh, I guess we're going to have to reschedule the session. Oh, we're not going to be able to do it for 4 months now. Oh my God, you're kidding me. I cleared out this whole weekend. That's happened.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, well, what I was going to say, I've been on sessions before where the producer or the engineer were the opposite of that. They were bringing whatever their personal baggage or whatever was into the session, and so it made it hard on you.
Right.
And so that's one of those things where I think to all the younger drummers out there, people that don't have a lot of recording experience, don't take that stuff personal, because that's not about you. That's about them. They're having a hard time and you're their punching bag. And unfortunately that happens, especially to drummers sometimes.
Yeah. Good point, Bart. It's hard not to take stuff personally, because it's like you're exposed there in the recording studio. Everything's under a microscope, and it's like you're playing it right, or the way the producer wants, or the way the engineer wants, or you're not. And,
right.
They might want something different than what you had in mind in that moment, in that song, or for the groove or whatever. And you got to just try to be professional and accommodating. But there's a balance, I think, too, between, depending on the situation, between sticking to your creative guns. It depends on who's asking for what.
That's a good point.
There's a great story. You guys know that great Bob Dylan track, "Lay Lady Lay."
Yeah.
And now, I'm now forgetting the drummer on that session. I can't remember. The famous drummer. Who? Steve Gadd?
Steve
No,
Gadd?
I was just gonna. I think didn't Eric Clapton redo that song?
He did "Lay Down Sally."
He did "Lay Down Sally," but I thought he did "Lay Lady Lay" as well. I thought he redid it, and I thought Gadd played on that one. I could be completely wrong.
That would sound well. I know Gadd plays with Clapton, so that checks out. But I can't remember. Somebody look it up while we're talking. But anyways, the story behind it. There's this great drum track that sounds really kind of not straightforward, and it turns out that Chris Christopherson was like the janitor at the studio.
Kenny Buttry was the drummer.
Kenny Buttry, thank you. And he's playing they found an old pair of bongos in a locker, and then there was an ashtray that the band was using for their cigarettes, and he ended up playing the part on these like crappy sounding bongos and an ashtray and the drum kit.
Really?
It's a really cool drum part.
It says that Chris Christopherson assisted with the percussion parts on "Lay Lady Lay."
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
That's
the more you know. I learned something on every show.
One of the things that that you said, and I want to touch on this, and because I think this is so important to that this is one of the things we almost preach on the deck, and that is to be prepared when you go into any situation,
Mm.
recording session, gig, I mean, whatever, be prepared. We've all had those moments where it's like you're not prepared and you feel like an idiot, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
or you thought you were prepared and you weren't. That's what you said at the beginning of this. You were like, when I asked you if you had a little bit of nerves, you're like, no, I wanted to do well, but I was prepared. I was rehearsed and I was ready. Um, I was on I've seen sessions before where um, it was with a singer and they were trying to do a duet with themselves.
Mhm.
Like they wanted to do a duet with themselves and they wanted it to be not a harmony, just a self duet.
Mhm.
Well, they hadn't prepared that, and it was not even like they did the one take and good take, then they did the next take, yeah, good take, but you try to put them together and it was just not
Right.
there. And their answer was, oh, you guys, you can fix it in Pro Tools. And it's like, you can't. You
Yeah.
got auto tune and you got EQs, but you don't have auto soul. I mean, you've got to,
Dude,
you got,
that's a really good plugin. You got to get the Auto Soul plugin.
you got to get the auto soul plug-in, man. I need one of those for all my drums. But but yeah, I mean, you've got to be prepared, and that, my friend, is kudos to you for being able to walk into a situation where you're at one of the most famous recording studios in the world that has done all of these movies. I mean, what's bigger than Star Wars, right? And
Mhm.
all the ghosts that are in that room, and you
Mhm.
pulled it off. That is unbelievably great. That is
Thanks.
so cool. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank
I'm
you very
I'm
much.
very happy for you and proud to call you my friend. That is
Oh,
awesome, dude. That's
oh,
great.
that's great.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
I hope that you guys all get that kind of experience at some point because it was really fun, And in the end, it's still just a recording session. You got to play your music, they mic up your
yep.
drums, and you go in and you listen to the take, and yeah, that was good or it wasn't. And, so it in that way, it's once you start playing, you relax into it, and you're just like, oh yeah, I'm just like I am in anywhere else.
Right.
Um,
It's a gig, and I happen to be in this room.
right,
You
right,
know,
right. But
that's
but
the way
it,
you.
it is true. Like you definitely like feel the vibe of the room in a cool
Yeah.
way. Yeah. Uh, well,
The
yeah,
enormity of it. The
right.
enormity of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the gravitas. Like, wow, I'm in a holy place. Like, all these
Yeah.
amazing records have been recorded here, and uh, yeah, they don't. It's not just movie soundtracks. They do regular albums too. Um,
That's so cool. Okay, so David Betts, I don't know, David, did you look that up, or did you know the answer to the Star Wars geek question?
He
Yeah,
looked that
either
up.
way, yeah, he probably Googled it. Either way, you win. Here, I'll send you this pen. I've got a drumstick pen. Okay,
oh
I'll
yeah,
send you. Look at that. Come on,
You don't want
you
to
win.
send that to the UK, man. That's going to cost you about
it's
30
like 30
bucks.
bucks.
Oh yeah, you know what, David Betts, you're not getting anything. Forget it. You just knew the answer.
You're getting our love and our support, David.
That's right, David. Thank you for watching the show, man. He is such a sweetheart of a guy. I didn't think about the UK thing. Hey, so the most important question, you said that they brought you lunch
Oh
and it was provided by the restaurant. Was it pizza?
no, no,
What was it?
you could order whatever you wanted from their menu.
And what did you order?
I got a BLT.
You went there and you got
Nice.
a BLT?
Well, it was like I didn't want to get. It's funny you ask. I didn't want to get like super heavy food.
Dude, I get it.
Because
I
like I know
felt
you're kidding, but if like I got something like super heavy, like a pizza or like a cheeseburger, I'd
He
have been
wanted to
sitting there.
play light like a gazelle,
Yeah.
prancing
like a
on the
gazelle.
field.
Well,
Even
listen,
your movement was gazelle like there, Chip. That was awesome.
I'll tell you, because this is actually a good question, Bart, that leads to a good brief topic, which is taking care of yourself and managing your day in the
Yep.
studio, because it was a long
Yes.
freaking day. I was there
Yeah.
from, I had to load in early before the band, so I was there at like 8:30 or maybe it was 9 o'clock, and we were there till 7, which is, not the longest of days, but 10 hours. That's not nothing. And, you got to stay focused and on your game for 10 hours, even when you've got long stretches in between of inactivity, right? Where you're waiting, you're listening, you're waiting for the horn players to get their thing. And, I knew that if I had this big, heavy meal, I would crash. I knew I'd be tired and I'd be full and I'd be like feeling a little lethargic. And that's like the last thing I wanted to feel for the second half of the session. So I decided to go light, and that was a good choice.
And there's probably a great BLT. I love BLTs.
Have avocado on it too. It's delicious.
Oh, dude, well, come on. Yeah, right.
David said that he would take the applause, and we've got Peter Retzlaff in the house. What's up, Peter?
Hey, what's up,
Peter?
Peter, you got to go back and watch the whole thing. Now we had all.
Now exactly.
So much.
You got to watch the whole show.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That is great. And that it's that way on any gig. Who wants to, a lot of times, like you get fed at a gig, and I've always said any gig where you get paid and you get a meal, it's a good gig. And sometimes it's like, okay, we're going to feed you guys right before you go and play the show. It's like, man, I don't want to do that because I don't like to eat before I play.
Or sometimes you go to a studio and there's absolutely nobody who accounted for time to eat. So you gotta bring your cooler and a sandwich.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So did you have a producer in this situation, or was she basically directing things?
The band leader, Gene Feinberg, was pretty much acting as producer. I mean, the engineer, I mentioned her name was Leslie Ann Jones. She was incredible. She and Gene would sort of go back and forth about, do you think that take was good? Was there any issues with it? Oh, I think the horns missed this, or things that Gene might not have heard while she was playing that Leslie picked up on. And, she was sort of functioning like a producer, but Gene was making ultimately the, editorial decisions about arrangements, and, together they would decide on which take was the kind of thing.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah, but there wasn't like a dedicated hired producer for the album. Yeah,
that's cool. And the engineers were the engineers again. There was 4 engineers.
Yeah, there was the lead engineer and assistant engineer who were both in the control room, and then there was an engineer and two other assistants in the main room. One of whom was responsible for the headphone mixes, and the other one was just moving mics around, moving sound baffles, all that stuff, plugging cables in.
Cool, man. When do you go? Cool. When do you go back in to finish the record?
We don't have a date yet, but I think it's like probably 6 months from now.
There you go.
And I should say this too. Gene was super cool about. I mean, I had a bunch of ideas about arrangements or takes. I was like, yeah, I don't think that was the right take. I thought I heard this. The rhythm section wasn't as tight as it was on the previous take, and I felt comfortable voicing my opinions, even though I was just there to play drums. And my opinions were taken in and considered and validated, and almost every time agreed with. So that was kind of a nice feeling to feel like I had, creative input or voice beyond just playing, but sort of on an editorial level.
That always makes you.
Guy, that's kind of rare.
That mutual respect, that mutual respect. That was really nice to feel in that session.
Chip, you're right. That is rare. That is rare. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, very cool.
Well, it helps that I'm a drum teacher too.
That's awesome, man. That's fantastic. Hey, I got an idea. I think we should do a 32-bar snare drum solo. Yeah, do it.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, Jeremy, congratulations on your success with that, man. That is so cool. And thank you for sharing that with us. And the funny thing at the beginning of this, Jeremy goes, I don't think I have enough for an hour-long show. And we're just like, we're 45 seconds shy of an hour. Yeah. And we are all literally like geeking out on the pictures and we got, yeah. And Rick, we did miss you, buddy. Hope you feel better. He texted me during the show and said he's feeling a little bit better. His temperature's down. So that's good. He doesn't have COVID. He's got a bad cold, it sounds like. And so we wish him well. We will see you guys next week. We got a couple of things coming up next month. Who's you say Kelly Ray's coming back, right?
Yeah, Kelly Ray Tubbs is going to be here the first Tuesday in August. I think that's the 3rd. For
Okay.
those of you who aren't familiar with Kelly Ray Tubbs, she is just a phenomenal human being, great drummer, and a deeply knowledgeable drum historian. So she knows more about the history of the drum kit and about women playing drums than anybody I've ever met. And it's every time we talk to her, it's like I learned so much, and it's so fun to have her. So we're excited about that.
That's great. And then I know on the 16th of August, we're going to have a good friend of ours, JJ Garcia. JJ is not only an amazing drummer, but he's really into, he's really a business manager. He deals with bands and booking bands and things on the business end of things. He's a writer for Hits Magazine, just a great dude. So JJ is going to be on and talking about the relationship between management and drumming and as a drummer, touring drummer who is a manager, how you work all that stuff out. So
cool.
Anyway, Chip, let's hear your R2D2 there. I heard him.
Let me see if I can do it.
That was freaking awesome, Jeremy.
I've got a whole bunch of Star Wars imitations I can do.
Okay, let's hear Chewie. So badass. I wish I could do that. My sister's dog can do that. My sister's dog, she'll go, her name's Rapture. She'll go, Rapture, can you be a Wookiee? And it'll do that. It's so cool. And then Han Solo. Okay, so, and we got Yoda. And so, that is just so cool. Oh, there we go. Chip's going to do his R2D2.
He's not waking up for some reason.
His batteries died.
Maybe I need new batteries.
Maybe you need new batteries. He needs more AAAs. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. On behalf of everybody on deck, we appreciate it. We'll see you next week on deck, and have a great week. Have a great week. Go practice, and you will be able to get into the studio like Jeremy Steinkel.
Thanks for listening, everybody. See you next time.
We're still live.
How does the Star Wars Cantinas music go?